Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. This evening we are going to do a review and discussion of a book that was gifted to me for Christmas this year. So I hurried up and I read it real quick so that I could do it for holiday content for you guys. I'm hoping that I do a nice enough job of expressing the hope in this book that you all feel compelled to grab a copy of this thing in time to read it for Christmas too. All right, you ready? Here we go. This is The Christmas Cabin, and I have the deluxe edition from J. Patrick Lemarr. Let me get it up there without a glare because I want you to see how pretty this is. Look at how lovely this cover is. It just screams Christmas, right? A nice snowy winter scene for Christmas. And everything about this book is lovely. Everything about the attention to detail throughout this book is just lovely. I have a signed copy. It is number 8 of 15 because the deluxe edition, there were only 15 of them made. Isn't that awesome? I think that's very cool. So, this is going to have a special spot on my shelf. Let me start reading the back cover first. Samantha Cobb, Chester Wheatland, Dylan Drake. 3 lives forever changed by the power of Christmas. Samantha Cobb has plans for her holiday that don't include rolling her car on an icy backwoods road in the hills of Tennessee. Dylan Drake has his own agenda for the Christmas season that finds him wandering down that same desolate road. When worlds collide, it may take divine intervention to restore the grace of the Christmas cabin. Years later, when Chester Wheatland's doctor informs him that he doesn't have long to live, it prompts a road trip to Louisiana to face a regret that Chester has carried for over 40 years. Along for the ride is Dylan Drake, whose presence may change the course of Chester's journey. Christmas is a time for miracles. Dylan Drake has his work cut out for him. And miracles is right. So let me show you, I'm going to give you the specs, but let me show you what I'm talking about when I say that the attention to detail and the prettiness of this book is just, it's wonderful. Look at, on this page, the first story in here is The Christmas Cabin, and look at the picture on the first story. Each one of the 4 stories in this book has this 4-color illustration at the beginning. There are lovely pictures in here that just say Christmas, that just say prettiness, that just say someone took a lot of time to put this book together and make it lovely. Isn't that nice? Isn't that pretty? It's a nice presentation for the message of hope and this, a Christmas being a time of miracles, but the message of hope in this book. The specs are The Christmas Cabin by J. Patrick Lemarr. The editor is Shannon Maddox. This was published in 2022, and there are 4 short stories featuring the time-traveling editor, Dylan Drake. I'll tell you what I mean by that in just a minute. Okay, the first story is The Christmas Cabin, goes from pages 1 to 52. The second story is Interlude, goes from pages 53 to 66. The third story is A Christmas Robbery, goes from pages 67 to 86. And the fourth story is The Road to Christmas, goes from pages 87 to 129. Now, in the first story, The Christmas Cabin, that's when we meet Samantha Cobb and Dylan Drake. Now, I don't want to give away what's happening there. I don't want to give away any pieces of the puzzle. And it's going to be hard not to. It's going to be hard not to give away pieces of the puzzle and still talk about each of these 4 stories. I'm going to try because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to spoil any pieces because each of these 4 stories you should read fresh. You should come into each of them fresh and I don't want to say be surprised by things because they don't really give surprises. They just give an intricate and interwoven and interconnected thread of story and message of hope. Each one of them has this little hope. Okay, so the first story, Samantha Cobb, she's going to her parents' Christmas cabin for Christmas, but she doesn't have your typical your typical motive in mind, okay? And she does almost run over Dylan out in the road. I mean, it's snowing hard. It's hard to see, and she almost runs him over. She can't run him over, of course, because Dylan is something special, okay? He does not consider himself an angel. He doesn't call himself an angel, although you might, there's a case to be made to call him a guardian angel, but he's able to move through time. He can pop into people's lives in the times when he is needed. And now when he arrives in your life, he's not arriving to tell you what to do. He's not arriving to make something happen, but he's arriving at a time, a moment of crisis, usually. He's arriving at a time when he can give guidance, when he can offer another perspective, when he can say, well, if you did this, what do you think is going to happen? It's almost like he's a divine therapist, right? I don't know if Patrick would call him a divine therapist, but he's a calming presence, really. He's able to, I don't know, he's just got this very calming and authoritative presence about him. He's stoic. I guess stoic is a good term for him as well. But he's a very alpha gentleman who can stare down the barrel of a gun and yet have compassion for the person holding the gun. I mean, it's just he's a good character. He's a good guy. But he calls himself an editor. He doesn't call himself an angel. He calls himself an editor. He is an editor for the author of our stories. The author of our stories being God. And so he works for the big guy, right? But he is able to step into a timeline, any point in time that he needs to, and give guidance and offer advice, offer consolation, offer compassion, offer thoughts, offer help. But he can also manipulate things to make sure you're in the right place where you need to be. For example, in the fourth story, and I'm not going to read this because I'll end up giving something away, but I will say in the fourth story, in Chester's story, he puts a hole in the oil pan of Chester's truck so that they have to be stuck at a certain place at a certain time so that Chester can be around people that he needs to be around, so that he can have the opportunity to confess some things if he chooses to confess them. He still has free will. Chester can still decide not to say things to these strangers, or he can say them. I mean, there are opportunities for each individual to exert their free will. Dylan is just there to present the opportunities, to make sure the opportunities come to pass, which is wonderful. And throughout each one of these stories, I'm telling you, there's this sense of hope. There is hope. Even in Samantha's story where she feels she doesn't have hope, Dylan shows her, yeah, you do. Yeah, there is still hope. There is this. See? It's lovely. I can recommend The Christmas Cabin and all 4 stories therein by J. Patrick Lemarr as a lovely Christmas magical set of stories, or as something for any time of year that you need a little boost in the hope category. You guys, thumbs up for Christmas hope, Christmas magic, time travel, all of it. And please subscribe to the channel. Please follow along. You got to click the bell notification icon so that you're notified each time I do these reviews or unboxings or rambling stuff here at the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you're having a lovely Christmas.